Good morning, good morning, good morning. And I'm Todd DeVoe, and I'm the Director of Emergency Services at Titan HST, and I've been involved in responding to emergencies and disasters for a long time now. In addition to that work at Titan HST, I'm also an educator. I teach at the post-secondary level, and learning and sharing what I've learned is a big passion for me. So welcome to Business Continuity Today, where we'll continue to learn together. And today we're talking about, well, the lessons learned from the writings from Doug Conant and his leadership blueprint. There's a few people who I like to read on leadership. Brent Gleason, former Navy SEAL, who I've had on the E Weekly show. He's one who I really like to read about for his readings. And then I've also David Marquette here in the book, a couple of different books, Turn the Ship Around and Leadership as Language. We're going to talk about a little bit about leadership language today. And then I just found Doug Conant, and he was a former CEO of Campbell Soup, and he actually turned that company around when it was failing back in the day. And some of the leadership stuff that he brought with him, and he's written this book called the Blueprint. And I've been reading it, and I'm taking some of his lessons from that really to heart, and how to build myself as a better leader. And I want to share some of those lessons with you as well. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into it. So Douglas writes on the idea of leadership beliefs and what does it mean, and really this is one of those things that you have to really dig down deep into your soul about why do you want to be a leader, why do you want to put yourself out front of an organization. And there's various different reasons why people do this, but why do you do it, right? And I think at the end of the day, if you take, and might be speaking out of turn here a little bit for some of you, but if you just do it for the money, you're going to find yourself in a very not happy space, right? And I think the people who you're supposed to be leading will find this as well. And this is where we get into the old argument of leadership versus being a boss, leadership versus management, that type of stuff, where you have technical skills to do the job, but do you have those people skills, the soft skills, the ability to get people to do what you want them to do. And again, my experience has been shaped by the military, shaped by being in the public safety area, and it's a little bit different command and control type stuff. But we always had those leaders that, even if they were, when they were the chief of police or the colonel or the that level of person at the top, that were able to walk into the room and you knew that they had your best interest at heart in general. And so those are the type of people that you wanted to follow. You also had those leaders that walked in the room and you knew that they were a jerk, and you didn't want to really, you did the job because you had to, and it reflects, on the unit in general. If you've seen the Band of Brothers, a really good example is that first captain that they had with their group. And if you haven't seen that, you should go back and watch that. Some really great leadership lessons specifically from that movie. So a couple different things here. So old leadership ideas are inefficient, right? The idea is you walk in the room, it's my way or the highway. It doesn't really work anymore, especially in economic times, to where people have lots of choices to go and work wherever they want to work or do whatever they want to do. That paradigm will not work, right? So people will leave. You're seeing this today with some of the shifting, what's going on with specifically the way things are being run, as far as choices that people have. They can work from home, different jobs across the country they don't need to go to. So there's lots of more choices out there. Businesses today are having a harder time keeping and recruiting people to work in them, even at some of the lower levels, because of the idea of what work is. The other part of it too is leadership truly is a craft that has to be mastered. It's not something that you just get a title and you slap it on your chest and then you just walk out and you're done, right? Leadership is a craft that has to be mastered. You have to continuously learn. This is why I read like crazy. This is why I read people like Marquette or Gleason, in this case, Conant, about what leadership is and what it can do and how you can actually implement those lessons, right? That's the other part of it, is you can read this book, right? But if you don't implement the lessons that you learn in the book, then you're just wasting your time. In essence, you might as well be reading, a comic book and just if you to burn your time, right? Take these leadership lessons and implement them, because at the end of the day, it's all about the people, right? It's all about the people that work for you, and I truly have embraced the concepts of the servant leader, right? And servant leadership sounds soft and squishy. It was started around the 1970s, the concept of it, and it's really grown, but it's not soft and squishy, right? It's really, at the end of the day, is that if your people are out there doing the job, right? Whether it's you're running a construction crew and you have people out there digging ditches, right? Or if you're running, a multi-million dollar, IT firm, or whether it's whatever, Facebook or whatever, right? You need to be able, it's all about the people, because they're out there doing the work and you have to support them, and they have to know that they're being supported, right? And if the guy that is on the construction crew needs tools or needs water or needs something, it's your job specifically to, as the leader, is to make sure that they have the tools, the skills, and the knowledge to be able to do the job that they have to get, right? And then as a leader, working hard, right? And being kind, there are amazing things will happen. I learned this as a young Navy petty officer, right? Where I had my guys that were working for me, and again, I go in and be this hard ass guy, and you will do this because the Navy says this needs to be done, and I'm petty officer, blah blah blah. Do you see this? Well, it's be on this side. Do you see this rank on my shoulder? Right? I had a guy that did that to me one time. I wanted to punch him in the face. Right? You don't throw rank around. That's not leadership. And so the same thing here is, even if you're in the corporate space. So when we're talking about what we do as business continuity leaders, as crisis leaders, as emergency managers, that doesn't really work either, because the one you need to lead is in a crisis, right? And there's a difference between like barking, right? When I say barking, like just saying, hey, go over there and do this, right? Yes, there are going to be times when you cannot be like all soft and squishy and say, oh, can you just please, right? You need to sometimes tell them, hey, we're in the middle of a crap storm, get this done. But at the end of the day, you don't have to be that way every day, right? As you're building up to that time when you're in crisis, right? You should be kind, be leader, be that servant leader. And then when the day comes when you have to be strict and bark orders, if you will, during a crisis, people will forgive that, right? And they go, okay, we know that he has his best interest at heart, right? So we can always do better, right? Always, we can always do better, and that's why, like I said, continuous learning, right? If you aren't striving to learn, you're gonna fail as a leader, right? And it doesn't mean you have to go through this and highlight the book and then walk into the place like a robot and just regurgitate the stuff. Take it to heart, learn it, look at what's going and see how it can implement and really impact the workspace, right? And your team, especially a team that's we're going to be working in crisis. The idea of leadership as language is critical. And then in order to win the marketplace, I love this quote. In order to win the marketplace, you must first win the workplace. And so, absolutely. So if you're going to move forward, you have to know that the people in the workplace want to show up every day, right? They want to be there for you. If you win that workplace, they want to do the best. And in that case, then your company will do the best. And whether we're, like I said, coming from the business continuity side of things, very, very important for us to be there. So when the crisis does occur, we can still keep moving forward and making sure that people are taken care of. You must be tough-minded on standards and tender-hearted with people. And this is what I was talking about before when it comes into the idea of being kind, right? Being tough-minded on standards. Yeah, you have to keep standards. You can't just be wishy-washy on it, right? People have to know where the line is drawn. And then, but you also have to be tender-hearted with people, which means, again, if you have somebody who's screwing up and doesn't belong there, that's one thing, right? But at the end of the day, if you have people that are actually doing the job, working as hard as they can, you have to respect that and let them know that that's happening. And again, servant leadership. Read a lot about. We'll talk more about servant leadership in the future here, but you should read more about it as well. So I want to give a couple questions here, right? And I want you guys to think about them. And if you can write them in the comments. You can maybe just talk about later on, and on LinkedIn here or Facebook or on YouTube of what this really means. So question one is, what really motivates people to give their best, right? And if you think about this, that's what we do as great leaders, right? Is we motivate people to give their best. And you have to know what motivates people to give their best, right? And it's different for each person. Some is about money. Some people are all about the cash. Some are about being able to spend time with their family and that work-life balance, right? Some are there for the thrill of the close, if you will, if you're in the sales side of things, right? Um, if you think about what motivates the people closest in your life, your friends, your family, and your colleagues, and then on the other side of it, what's impacts them negatively, right? What's the negative side of it? Some people respond really poor under too much pressure, like they just can't take it. Some thrive under pressure, right? It's the fear of failure or the or whatnot. They do better. Some again fall apart under pressure. Some do poorly under the absence of challenges, right? If you're in a dull, dundrum type of thing and there's no challenges there, some people fail at that. And so you have to recognize that and see how you can challenge them at work to do better. The other thing is how do you influence people to deliver? What do you do? Right? And this is where I'm going to talk about this a little bit. This is where the book Leadership as Language comes into play. It's what you say, right? And words matter. And Brian, like the producer here, producer Brian, and I talk about this all the time, is that the idea of words matter, and on the other side of it too, it's the words you don't use sometimes matter, and sometimes those words you don't use matter more. Right? What's that mean is be careful and be deliberate in choosing of how you speak about things. Now, again, if you're talking about the football game last night, that's one thing. But if you're sitting there and truly talking about their job and what you expect from them, right, and what the outcome that you want, choosing deliberate words because words matter in the workplace. Words matter in leadership, right? And people will understand or maybe not understand, right, what you're saying by the words that you choose, and maybe they might walk out confused. After my meetings, I always go around the table. I call it going around the table, even if you're on the Zoom meetings, and I'll ask people, okay, are we clear on what we're here, and do you have any questions? And it's a no judgment zone. If somebody asks a question about something I've said, I don't take it to heart and go, oh, you weren't listening to me. Obviously, I wasn't doing a good job communicating. As a professor, I take a look at this one way too on choosing words and what this really means. If I teach a class, my students take a test, and I have one person who doesn't do too well on the test, well, okay, that's their thing, and we'll have to talk about it. But however, if the mass group doesn't do well on the test, then obviously I did something poorly as an instructor to get that out to them, right? For them to understand what I was talking about. So I have to go back and take a look and reflect on what I said and the words that I chose and why I didn't communicate what I thought I was communicating with them. It's because communication is a two-way street. You can't just yell and tell, right? You have to be able to choose the words that are going to influence people to move forward. Now, I haven't spoken about David Marquette very much on this program, but he's a book called Turn the Ship Around. And he took a failing Navy submarine, a boat that was doing poor on all aspects of things, and they gave it to him as a command. And he was sort of disappointed at first because he thought he was going to get this brand new boat. He was all excited about it. It was going to be best in class, and he gets this boat that was older and failing. And it took him a little bit, but he figured out a concept of intent. Right now, we talked about commander's intent, right, and saying, okay, these are what I expect out of you. This is what needs to get done. Go make it happen. But on the other side of it is the idea of I intend to, right? And what it is instead of having somebody to come and ask for permission, saying, may I do this? Right? Talk about words make a difference. May I do this as a permissive, asking for permission? But I intend to is just informing your boss, letting the people inform you, your people underneath your command, inform you what they intend to do. And if you disagree with them, you can change direction. But if you agree with them, just say, okay, go on, do it. May have ownership, right? Have ownership. And in case of some people like Jocko, extreme ownership. Have ownership of that process. I think that's important. So the words matter. We'll get more into what that means later on. And but we're here and we're short here on time. So I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week. Hey, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast player, and also, share us here on LinkedIn as well, and do some stuff here. So thank you for visiting us today, and visit Titan HST for all your communication needs. And we'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay hydrated.